Well, this chapter just clarified a lot about the war between the Goddess Clan and the Demon Clan. Number one, a very critical point, is that the Demon Clan has civilians that don't necessarily fight. Number two, the Archangels are pretty much pricks. Number three, this war is not really about good versus evil. It's more about ideals. The Archangels think they're actually the good guys. They feel like they're above everybody else. While the Demon, Clan, they probably have their own things that are pretty despicable and evil. But overall, I don't think that both sides are necessarily good or evil. Just there is some scumbags on both sides. Probably some of the demons are scumbags, while some of the Goddess Clan are scumbags. And that's kind of how war really is, if you do think about it. But this chapter lets us know that the Goddess Clan definitely started a lot of shit. And I can now see why the previous Fairy and Giant King left for the Ten Commandments, because of what this chapter did. Number one, what really stands out is the fact that the Fairy Forest was used to lure in demons. And all these demons that were lured in were civilians. Demon civilians. People that haven't caused anything. And now we gotta think about it like this. We gotta remember, when it comes to our culture, when we usually think about demons, we think about them as a vile species that is evil. That's how our culture usually perceives demons. I mean, let's just be completely honest with everyone here, okay? We always perceive demons as the bad guys. And typically, that is how many in the world view that. But we gotta remember that the Demon Clan doesn't necessarily mean that because they're demons, they're evil. We know amongst everyone in society, in real life, there is some good people, and there's some bad people, and sometimes morally gray people. But in this case, let's just talk about the good and bad people. And that can be said for everyone when it comes to humans, demons, goddesses, fairies, and giants. And in this case, we shouldn't view the Demon Clan as, like, from our culture. For instance, how demons normally are, how we think demons are always all evil. That is not how we should view this. The Demon Clan are just demons because that's what they're classified as. And it doesn't mean they're all evil. Yes, there's some scumbags probably a part of them, but overall, though, the same can be said for every other race in Taizai. And so when you see stuff like this, when you see civilians, it clarifies that these aren't your typical type of demons you would see in stories. Like, stories where demons are usually evil. This is just, a clan, a species that's just, labeled demons, and now the angels are starting shit with them, and then it's causing this entire war to just escalate. Because at the end of the chapter, let's just take a couple of notes what happened there. As we know, the Goddess Clan, they're starting this. They were luring the demons to the Fairy King Forest to get, the Ten Commandments there and then kill everybody off. The Archangels now are initiating against the Ten Commandments and also the demons that are there. And some of the civilians that died, it seemed like one of them were the sister of Derriere. Yeah, you remember Derriere? Well, apparently her sister was a part of that. You even saw a quick panel with that in the chapter. So it lets us know that explains why some of the Ten Commandments are very pissed off with the Goddess Clan and why they do what they want to do. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that all of the Ten Commandments are good either. That means that some of them could be pretty scummy, do some evil, despicable shit, and it doesn't honestly make up for some of the stuff we've already seen them do in the present timeline. However, now we can kind of understand why they have been so aggressive, why they act like they do. When you have your own sister get lured into a forest and then killed like that in front of you, that's gonna fuck you up, regardless if you're a demon or not. That's gonna make you really upset. So now we can kind of understand the rage coming from the demons towards the Goddess Clan. And now we can also understand why maybe, the previous Fairy and Giant King decided to get up and leave and join the Ten Commandments because they finally realized what was really going on here. If this continues and, the Archangels continue to do what they want to do, all the other species are going to be completely fucked over while the Goddess Clan is going to live in power. And that is what we clearly see going on here in this chapter. So, I like the world building that Nakaba-sensei is trying to bring to the table with this chapter, and I do like the fact that, as a cultural thing, we usually view demons as completely evil beings, but in this case, that's not what it is. is. Let's just classify demons as like a different subspecies of humans. That's how we should actually view demons in this case. And so not all of them are going to be good or evil. And I like how Nakaba-sensei is going down that path with the series. Now, in some cases, it is very predictable. It is. I mean, this is not the first time I've ever seen, you know, angels being the main big bad guys of a series of a manga, light novel, you know, book, or even anime series. It's not my first time. However, I do like how it is being presented in the story, the slow, gradual buildup of it that we've seen over many chapters, over these past couple hundred chapters. We have seen the slow buildup of this, but now it is finally clarified what was really happening. And let's just talk about Elizabeth for a second, okay? So Elizabeth, as a character, she actually is a relatively good person. She's a perfect example of someone that is a good goddess. While on the other side of the spectrum, we see, you know, someone like a part of the Archangels that is a complete scumbag causing all of this shit and using Elizabeth for his in-game goals. And so we see the complete differences between some of the goddesses in the chapter. And the same could be said exactly for the Demon Clan, because you want to know what stands out in this chapter when it comes to the Demon Clans. Number one, when the demons ran away from Elizabeth, they didn't want to fight. It proved that they do care about themselves. They're not all about being bloodthirsty and killing people. They do want the war to stop. That really was, you know, kind of emphasized in the last chapter. But on top of that, for the Ten Commandments to even talk to Elizabeth, actually communicate with her, not go straight in and start beating the shit out of her, try to beat the shit out of her, they tried to talk to her. It shows you that the Demon Clan can be talked with. There can be negotiations. It doesn't need to be bloodshed. But the main reality of this is, when it comes to war, usually negotiations are never really done first until after shit spirals so far out of control. That's usually when negotiations tend to happen. So yeah, chapter overall, pretty good chapter. A lot of setup here and there for the war, and there's a couple other points I do want to clarify before I kind of end this video. Number one, the character that looks very similar to Bond, which I've neglected to talk about because there's not really a whole much we really know about this character, but this character that looks very much like Bond, either A, is a possible, like, you know, reincarnation, like, for instance, what Bond eventually becomes could possibly be the reincarnation of this dude, or something else. Maybe Bond is related to this man in some way, like, blood related. But regardless, though, King did look at this guy and it's like, oh, Bond! He's like, oh, yeah, of course you're not Bond and all that. It was very suspicious, because for something like that to be said by King, it lets us know that this dude definitely has a connection to Bond. However, I do find it very interesting that King, of all people, that's always had a problem with Bond and, you know, Bond's relationship with his sister, would say something like that about the previous Fairy King's sister, like, oh, please take care of her and all that, please take care of my sister, make sure she's safe, and then this person that looks exactly like Bond's like, oh, sure, I'll, you know, make sure she's completely safe. I find that very interesting how that was done. I wonder if Nakaba-sensei's trying to imply that maybe there's something going on here, like, you know, something very similar to what's going on with, you know, Meliodas and Elizabeth. Reincarnation, how, you know, Meliodas is taking care of Elizabeth every time she reincarnates. Maybe something like that is going on with Bond and Elaine. Who the hell knows? But I mean, I felt like there was something going on there, and Nakaba-sensei wouldn't emphasize something like that and do those similar connections between the characters if it didn't necessarily mean anything. So yeah, overall chapter, pretty interesting. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next and see exactly the fight between the Ten Commandments and the Archangels. Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below, and I love you all so much. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.